In this session, I want to show you an interesting business model, which is the business model of WordPress. The reason why it's so interesting, it's of course because WordPress it's the main CMS as of now on the internet. So most of the blogs, at least the blogs that we have on the internet, are powered by WordPress. Of course, if we look at the breakdown of e-commerce or other verticals, WordPress may not be the dominant CMS if we look, for instance, let's say at other parameters like the revenue generated or other things like that. But in general, like WordPress is a very interesting case also because it's an open source software. And so we can understand how open source can be structured in order also to generate long-term revenues that keep the project going. Now, if you look at again at WordPress, which is an open source software and open source CMS, we see that the whole project is powered up by a flywheel, where the more active users you have, active users meaning like blogs that publish through WordPress, the more it creates like a marketplace that makes developer build up applications on top of WordPress, which applications are called plugins. So the more plugins, let's say applications, are available on this marketplace, the more this becomes interesting, and therefore it attracts more users. Here again intended as people that will open up a blog or a website or a CMS, a company, the CMS for the company, and therefore the more people will join and use the WordPress CMS, the more the plugin ecosystem is going to grow, and it's going to bring more active users. While on the other side, the plugin repository, so the set of applications that make up the marketplace, will grow exponentially, therefore spurring an entrepreneurial ecosystem, because remember that the developers of those plugins are building a business on top of it, and on the other side, the companies that are using WordPress as a CMS are actually able to handle more and more applications very easily on top of their CMS without having to build them internally, which may be very, very expensive. So it makes the whole CMS much more customizable. It makes it much more advanced for the users. That's how the WordPress flywheel works. Now, if we go back to the WordPress business model, it's interesting to notice how it gets managed. So on the one side, you have the open source CMS, the open source software, who is handled by a foundation, which is the WordPress Foundation. The WordPress Foundation lives up through donation. So it owns the WordPress trademark. So the WordPress.org trademark is managed by the foundation, who lives up through donation. And the WordPress Foundation also manages the WordPress community support, which is community support who again is prompted by the WordPress Foundation. And on the other side, it also handles the main event that the open source software sponsors each year across the world, with the WordCamp. That brings, of course, a sponsorship and events ticket revenues that go back to the support of the growth of the community. So again, there is one side, let's say one soul of the project, which is completely open source, which therefore is managed through a foundation, which manages the trademark and also the set of events, official events that the organization does. And then on the other side, you have a corporation who takes advantage of the ecosystem which is built on top of WordPress. The company, in this case, who handles this part is called Automatic, and it's a company that handles the WordPress.com brand. So on top of WordPress.org, there is a part which is WordPress.com, which is a hosting company that provides a subscription service, who is going to give user a set of services within the WordPress.com environment. So it's a simplified version of WordPress.org. It uses the same CMS infrastructure, but it adds on top of it a set of services from hosting to domain to some default plugins that are some default applications who are inside, like let's say WooCommerce or Jetpack, depending on the subscription level that you have. And therefore, within this Automatic company corporation, there is the whole WordPress.com brand, who also owns other tools within the ecosystem. Tools like WordPress.com, WooCommerce, Jetpack, Simpleton, Longreads, WordPress, and many other applications on top of that. Again, WordPress is very interesting because as an open source software, it's one that has powered up the web. It still exists today, so it shows that with a dual approach also to the way you handle an open source project, you can actually make this project survive and thrive in the long term. And as we saw, on the one side you have the WordPress.org managed by the foundation together with the events, official events managed by WordPress, so that those are also channeled to keep going the community support on the WordPress.org CMS software. And then on the other side you have a company Automatic who handled the WordPress.com brand, which owns a set of applications and it sells a set of subscriptions to subscriptions actually freemium also model, because each of those tools has its own freemium model. Again, they are managed by a corporation which handles the core part of the monetization for WordPress.com, and at the same time some of the development resources of those companies are also channeled back to the events the company does, to the support, and also therefore to strengthening the brand, the official brand of WordPress.